Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Just wait for everybody for a couple of seconds here to join us. I'm Mary Lynn from the Wella Company. I'm super excited to share something fun with you guys today. So we'll give everybody a minute to kind of come in and join us. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Nick. Awesome. Hope you guys are excited. All right, guys. So like I said, my name is Mary Lynn Rangel Perez. I'm one of the field education trainer with the Wella Company. I'm super excited today. We're going to have a guest joining us today. So it's not me doing the live. We have a special guest, and her name is Lisa Smith. And she comes from here, from Port Moody. She's one of a salon owner from Mint Hair Lounge in Port Moody. And we're just waiting for her to join us. We're really, really excited to have her on today to tell us about textured hair. So she's really great at doing textured hair. So I hope you guys are going to learn a lot from her today. All right, she should be here any minute. I also want to mention to everybody that if you guys have any questions during the live, please feel free to put the comments in the comment box, which is right below there. And I will be the one manning the chat and stuff and asking Lisa all the questions. All right. She should be joining us any sec here, guys. Good morning, Lisa. How are you?
Hey, Marilyn. How are you?
Good. Hi, all right, guys. So this is Lisa Smith. Like I said, she's from Mint Hair Lounge in Port Moody, BC. And I'm going to give the floor to you, Lisa. It's all yours.
Thank you. Thanks, Marilyn. Hi, guys. So, yeah, Marilyn said that right. My name is Lisa Smith. I'm a Wella Design team member and have been for about 5 years now. I also own Mint Hair Lounge in Port Moody, which I've had now for 13 years. And I've just opened Mint Blow Dry Bar in Coquitlam. So that's where I am this morning. This is my daughter. So in case anyone's wondering why we're not masked up, we do this together. So I'm going to use her hair for you guys today and going over some tips and tricks on how to cut textured hair. There's a couple of key points that I'm going to start off with first. So as I'm taking this braid out, I wanted to show you the difference when a client comes in to have their hair cut. I like them to come in with it dry, so I can see what the natural texture is doing. Because if you look here after I wet this down, there's a big difference in how curly hair looks dry versus wet. So if someone came in with wet hair and you don't know what it looks like and you're gonna start this cut, you're going into it very blind. So I make sure the client always comes in with dry hair, and then I'll go to the sink, get her washed, bring her back, and then I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to now spray her all down, and I'm going to start the cut while I explain a few things.
Lisa, Nick says hello.
Hi, Nick Khan. Nicholas Khan. How are you, sir? I bet you he's just wondering why I didn't make it over to your house to eat all the goodies. So I've sprayed it down now. A wet brush is going to be your best friend because, once again, what people kind of forget is that curly hair is very porous. So it just soaks in moisture quickly. So I always have to have a spray bottle on hand. And, of course, my Milky Waves from the NutriCurls line. It adds lots of nourishment while I'm waiting.
And it makes it probably a lot easier to work through the hair too, right, Lisa?
Yeah, because like if you leave this after a minute, it's going to dry, right? You're going to, it's going to dry and it's going to start to expand. So a lot of people ask me questions about cutting hair wet versus dry. So I'm going to kind of explain why I choose the techniques that I choose when I'm cutting. I do a multitude of wet and dry cutting. The one thing I won't do is I
have a little comment.
Pardon?
We have a little comment from our Wella studio in Toronto. They said your daughter has gorgeous hair.
Oh, yes, she does. And it took her a while to get the hang of this hair. Which is why I got really into her. She's the reason I got really into wanting to cut and learn how to cut textured hair well.
Sure.
So like I said, there's two ways to cut hair, right? I say it, there's many ways to cut hair, I should say, but there's cutting hair from exterior in or interior out. And I always choose to cut interior in. Now I do that because the way I can compare it to is when you're driving through a neighborhood of wonderful houses and all the houses look really different, the one thing that's the same with all of them is that the foundation is strong. So what's important to me is that you create a really strong foundation for your client so that their haircuts last longer. People often think that like, oh, curly hair, it hides a multitude of sins, and it does to the outside world, but it doesn't to the client. Like they'll say to me, I don't know what's wrong, but I know something's not right with my hair. It doesn't feel right. It's not sitting right. So I have to go in and find out why. And generally that's because people haven't used enough tension or used the wrong form of technique, the wrong shape, and it's just not sitting right. And maybe they can hide it, but they know it takes a lot more work. So what I'm going to do with Ava is actually a round layer. So I'm going to be pulling the hair out directly from. Now I'm doing that. You can kind of not really see because her hair is so long. You'll see it over here. So when I cut straight out like that, what I'm going to do is I want to slim down this part of her hair because her hair is so coily, it will expand very quickly, right? I've chosen round because I don't like to give her heavy corners. I've done it before. It looks great. But today we're just going to change it up and take the corners away.
And I'm assuming it just varies from one head of curly hair to the next, right?
Every hair type is different with curly hair, right? So it's not just whether is it coarse or is it fine? Is there a lot of it? Is there not that much of it? Those things also, but it's also the curl pattern. So you're not just feeling like my daughter here has you can see she's got very, very tight curls, but her hair texture is very fine. So with that, her hair has a lot of spring. So we have to be careful with the shapes. She'll show a shape very strong in her hair. Mm-hmm. So if I wanted to cut, say, round graduation, she would literally have a full round afro, right. And she probably wouldn't talk to me until it dropped.
Can we turn a little bit, Lisa, to see how you're cutting the back?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn, and then we're just going to turn this a little bit so you can see. So what I'm doing is taking my section, wide tooth part of my comb, I'm coming straight out. So you see how her ends are getting tangled like that? Spray them down. Hair needs moisture.
Would it be best with water, or would you go back in with your milk?
I go back and forth. So I'll spray water, then I'll go in and spray again with the Milky Waves. And I'm just pulling straight out. Okay. So you can see that.
So you are keeping a good tension on there?
A lot of tension.
Okay.
So that is what's going to create a really strong shape in her hair by using that tension. So if you saw the first time I went through, I had the wide tooth part of my comb pulled out and cut. And then I always flip my comb, go back in again, so I get even more tension for any little ones that I've missed.
Would you recommend point cutting to blunt cutting? Does it make a difference, Lisa?
I mean, I'm just more, I'll do a little bit of point cutting at the end on her top section, but I usually just cut everything blunt.
Okay, good to know.
For me, that's just my preference. So now I'm just taking my section down.
Awesome. For some of you who might just be joining us, in case you missed the beginning, we have a special guest today, and this is Lisa Smith from Mint Hair Lounge in Port Moody. She's teaching us about textured hair today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll be managing the chat today, and I'll be more than happy to ask those questions to Lisa for you.
I'm also going to mention here that I think people, a lot of stylists, a lot of people with curly hair don't realize that the natural oils from our scalp can only travel down a straight line. So people with curly hair, that's why it's always dry, and they don't have to wash their hair as often as somebody with fine, straight hair. So when you have finer, straight hair, that oil will slip right down, which is why we get greasy quicker. People with curly hair, the oils never travel through. So that's why it's important to constantly make sure that someone with curly hair has a lot of moisture and nourishment put in there. Sometimes you can mistaken dry hair for damaged hair, right?
That's very good to know.
And so it's not, a client doesn't need, usually what they just need is a lot of extra moisture, a lot of extra nourishment, making sure that maybe between washes they should use a co-wash. It's just a good way to keep the hair conditioned without rubbing or scrubbing out a lot of those natural oils that are already slow in producing on somebody with curly hair.
That's good to know, because I'm sure a lot of people make that mistake not knowing, right?
Well, that's often what it is, like it's even like for getting perms, for instance, everybody thinks it's the chemicals that are really drying out your hair after you get a perm, and it's not. Like, I'm not saying the chemicals don't play a part.
Fair enough.
But it's because now your hair has gone from straight to curly. So now the oils aren't going to travel down the hair shaft and nourish those ends.
Amazing.
And then you're going to use a wet brush as often as possible in between when you're cutting as well. So once again, I'm traveling with my guide. I am over directing to the previous, but I'm traveling with it.
Awesome.
So I'll just kind of turn you around so you can, so you can just start to see. Now I'm starting to build this shape. Right. So you can see it starting to come up there.
Yeah.
When I get to the top, this will lay up a little higher.
Awesome.
Now the only part, bumping, whipping her around too quickly. The only one thing I don't do when hair is wet is if a client with this type of texture wants a fringe.
Okay.
Okay, and why I do that is because you want to dry it, see how it sits, because once again, we all know that the front of the hairline is weaker. So the curl pattern can change a lot when you get to the front. So quite often people have really fuzzy pieces in here. So it'll spring in higher. In Ava's case, she actually has really curly hair, but she doesn't have a lot of spring back in the front because her hair is quite fine and a little weaker around her hairline. So I always take that into consideration.
And I think it's always something with any fringe, right? But then on top of it, you've got the curly hair in there.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to lie. I've had people come in to me that have, I've never done their hair before, and they're just like, their fringe is like, it's sticking up this way because someone didn't use enough tension or used too much tension or, pulled back too high and created too much elevation. Like, there's just so many factors. So now you can see I'm going back in with the Milky Waves again. And then I'm going to go back over the water.
if you were doing somebody's hair with a finer, more of like, you know, my texture of hair, because I decided today I would rock the curls, you know, would you be able to use your Milky Wave as much on me as you would be on Ava?
Oh yeah, Milky Waves is for everybody, every hair type. Well, not every hair type, every curl type, I should say. It works great for waves. It just creates puts some nourishment back in that can create a bit more weight in the hair too. And even if somebody wants volume in their curl, I still always use Milky Waves. Awesome. And then I'll go into, you know, if they have curl that they want to, it needs a little bit of extra work, you know, to push it into the shape, then I'll use a foam or a mousse, you know, like the twin curl or something like that. But then for Ava, I'll like soak her hair down in Milky Waves, and then I'll either use the Curlixer Balm or the Curl Shaper, which is a heavier gel consistency. Yeah. So it just really just depends on, I have to just turn her this way, so you guys aren't really going to be able to see me cut too much, or else I'm going to be completely out of view.
No.
We didn't realize how long her hair had gotten. She's been actually asking me for a haircut now for months. I'm like, no, I have to do an Instagram live. I have to do an Instagram live. You have to be my model.
She's a great model. It's always nice to have your daughter, because she can't say anything about your haircut.
Oh no, she will. She will. Don't let her fool you. If she doesn't like her hair, I'm the first one to know about it. Oh, I'm going to have a quick, while I'm cutting this too, I'm going to make a quick point as well that people need to understand, is because curly hair is porous, there's a lot of times that people forget that it actually lightens very quickly and very easy. So sometimes when people have curly hair, a stylist will just think, oh, it's got to be coarse, so it's going to take forever. Or, oh, she's got dark hair and dark skin, so her hair is going to be hard to lighten. That is not the case at all. I usually use like a cream lightener. I can use blonder and 10 volume and get her to a level 9. Easy. So you want to be careful in that point too when you're lifting people with really curly hair. You don't want to dry it out too much, right?
Right.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Absolutely. For some of you who have used our lighteners before, that is key with our lighteners, of course. It's slow and steady wins the race. So. Well,
and also, it's just blonder, let's be honest, is just a very nice, gentle lightener, right? It just doesn't cause any damage in lifting. So it makes it really easy for me to lift and color her hair. So we have pre-lightened her hair. You can kind of see that. Yeah. And then we did a 634 over everything just to give her a nice coppery color.
They're beautiful.
So now I've gone around and cut all the round layer in. So now what I'm going to do is just face frame out a little bit here, because I know I'm going to cut that last. So like from the second highest point on the head is where I'm going to determine where I'm going to put her fringe. So right in here. So I will just get rid of all the hair kind of around her hairline like that. And then what I'll do is I'll take my clips out. I'm going to just pull up straight up and cut the top. I took about 1.5 inches off of her hair today because she was really, really desperate for a haircut. So I'm just going to take that section, everything behind where I intend to cut her fringe. I'm going to pull straight up so you can see there. First comb up, a lot of tension. And then I take my other side of my comb.
Keep that nice
up again. And then you can see all the little bits that I missed in the first. I don't know if you can on here.
A little bit cut off.
But anyway, that's what I'm doing, just to make sure I get all of the hair in.
Amazing.
It's also always going to be a little bit more challenging when you get into hair this kind of texture to do even sections. Like I always have to start in. Sometimes I have to get in with my finger just to kind of get it apart. Then I'll spray if I need to, and then make a clean part.
It dries fairly quickly too.
It dries really quickly again because it's really porous, right? So anything that you're putting in there, it's just soaking it right in.
Yeah.
And everyone just kind of forgets that, except the person with the curly hair. Now, I've seen beautiful haircuts done on dry hair, right? I think I'm just a little old-fashioned in how I like to target and navigate through my haircuts. I just always believe that starting wet is your best option, because then I can go in and do any finishing once it's dry.
What would you recommend for texture? Like, would you do any type of texturing for the type of hair?
Absolutely not. So I'm just gonna, and I cannot say this, like, this is serious business here. The only tools you need when you're cutting hair this curly is a good comb and a good pair of scissors. I've had a lot of clients come in the past that have had texture scissors, thinning shears, razors, all of those great tools that are great for us and great to have in our back pockets, but do not belong on somebody with curly hair. If somebody comes to you with curly hair and they say it's too thick, you want to remove weight with your layering. You don't want to remove it with your thinning shears, because all it's going to do is come straight back in. Then you're going to have all these little pieces in here that's going to support this, and it's just going to make it fly away. So it'll actually get bigger rather than slim down. The biggest complaint you probably already hear all the time is when people come in with curly hair, like wavy hair, strong curly hair, and they always say, my head's a triangle. Right? So that's the biggest complaint that everybody has. They don't want their hair to look like a triangle, and I don't blame them. I wouldn't either. So then that's when you have to look. First, you have to look at the hair type. Is it coarse, curly, coarse or fine? Is it wavy versus curly? Is it coily? And then you start to determine what you're going to do to knock that weight out of there.
You definitely don't want to cause any frizz or anything like that by using texturizing shears. Right?
Yeah, it's just going to make your client have to work twice as hard, right?
Right. Totally.
And then I'm just going to quickly talk about, the best ways to tell your clients to look after their hair in between these cuts is to not wash as much. So like we have, for people with finer, straighter hair, we have dry shampoos. They are what save us every day, right? Like that is what helps me not have to wash my hair every second day. But obviously someone with curly hair, like curly like this, can't use a dry shampoo. They don't need it. Yes. So you want to get them into like a leave-in spray. That's where Milky Ways works really good. My other favorite for that is Fresh Up. It just like, it's kind of the dry shampoo for curly hair, I should say, right? Like they can just spray it in their hair in the morning. You don't have to wet it all down. You can just spray it, re-scrunch, it reactivates your curls. It takes the frizz out, and then you can go about your day. But you want to make sure that your clients are constantly keeping their hair really hydrated. Yes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send Ava out. She's going to go get her hair dry. And then we'll have a chit chat about anything that we can. And then she'll be back. And then I'll let you guys see how I cut the rest.
For anybody who has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. This is an amazing opportunity. If you've got questions for Lisa, we'd be more than happy to answer them. I do have a couple questions for you, though. There's a couple questions in the chat. So one of the questions is, why would you do layers over graduation?
Okay, so on Ava's hair, like I explained earlier, because her hair is really coily, she wants to slim down, right? So I have to use layers for that, so that will slim that line down for her. If I did graduation on her, she would have this really heavy top and slimmer bottom.
Okay.
Now, I love graduation on curly hair, on wavy hair, because then a lot of times their hair, their curl pattern's a little weaker on the top, so they need some help to push it into place.
Yeah.
Right? So when we're doing that, then I would use graduation then, so I can build that weight and push that curl up so that they start to have a more even curl pattern in their hair. That's something that has to be looked at all the time when you have somebody with curly hair, whether it's wavy, curly, coily. You have to pay attention to the curl pattern. So like for my daughter, her curl pattern is very different underneath than it is on top. It's getting better as she gets older, but when she was little, like her hair was super fine and wavy-ish on top, but then super coily in the back.
Right.
I have a lot of clients like that. So you have to cut their hair differently depending on their curl pattern as well. So if it's straighter in the front, I'm going to try use some, graduation in there to build that weight, but I'm going to use some layering in the back to bring that down so it looks like it's more even.
Amazing. Awesome. So we have another question. They want to know, what is next day care for curly hair?
I would say the Fresh Up. This one, it is absolutely my favorite product. I like that it's like I said, it's the dry shampoo for curly hair. So this really helps them reactivate their curl, because unfortunately people with curly hair, like they don't get to just get up and go the next day. Like everyone thinks, oh, it's so easy to have curly hair because you just have to scrunch it and go. It's like, no, you scrunch it. It's great for the day. You go to bed and then it's like this in the morning. So either you have to wet it all down and start again. So whereas with this, you can just spray the Fresh Up in there. It's got the 72-hour anti-frizz complex in there, and it works so good. Like we sell a lot of this to clients, and we do this for everybody with all hair types. This is good. Like I'll Fresh Up and then maybe some Sugar Lift for someone who's got a finer textured curl.
Who wants a little bit of that lift at the root?
Yeah, that needs the lift at the top. Like not, some do. And then the people that have the hair that could easily lift, of course, don't want that, right? It's just the way it always is.
Amazing. So another question would be, what will be the difference between cutting curly hair, like wavy curly hair, versus coarse curly hair?
Well, it all comes down to the curl pattern, right? So the coarse curly hair, if it's got a hard spring in, you want to make sure no matter what, like I said before, you want to see that client's hair dry first. Ask her how she styles it, what kind of products you use, and then that will determine first your shape and then how you're going to get through to that, right? Like how you're going to cut that shape to suit that client's needs. So with coarse hair, I usually have a lot more tension. I have to take way finer sections to get around the hair. So what could take me, maybe 30 minutes for a finer curly hair is going to take me at least an hour with coarse curly hair.
Would it differ if somebody wore their hair straight sometimes?
So when I have a client that wears their hair both ways, I still always ask for them to come in with it natural, right? So I like to look at what their hair does, and it's like you have to take a mental picture, then I'll wash it, rinse it, then I'll blow dry it, straighten it, and cut it dry. Because if you cut curly hair, I have to cut it a certain way, which I would take, very little texturizing. So it might not lay as nicely when it's dry. So I always like to cut it straight if they wear it both ways.
Amazing. So we have another question in the chat. Aluma Hairstyle said, sorry if you've already answered or mentioned this, but can I slice curly hair to thin it out?
No. I wouldn't. Now, okay, so I will show you a technique when Ava comes back in that I do when it's dry. So I will pick up the curl and I'll kind of slide my scissors down, but you have to follow the pattern of the curl. So, and I don't do it internally. I only do it on the external layers of the hair. Okay, so like I said before, thinning out is all going to be done in your layering and not in your after. Like no thinning shears and no heavy slicing, no heavy texturizing. Now that is for coily hair.
Right.
When you've got curly hair or wavy hair, then you might want to slice then a little bit to take out some of the weight and to try and bounce that curl back in, right? It's like right. I have some clients that have hair that the shorter you cut it, the straighter it goes.
Right.
And then I have some clients that the shorter you cut it, the curlier it goes. So you want to know all these things before you take any scissors to anyone's hair. You have to be confident. That's why I feel like I hear so many people online saying, where can I find someone that knows how to cut curly hair? Because they've had so many bad experiences. And that's just because we haven't there hasn't been enough knowledge for people to learn to cut curly hair until only recently. And I feel because curly hair is so in fashion now, and all these women with curly hair is like, yes, this is your time to shine, right? So
I'm included in that.
It was never like that before. It was curly-haired women were straightening their hair all the time because it wasn't in style. That's right. So now it's able to be there. So now they're having a hard time finding a stylist that is confident and comfortable cutting that kind of hair type. So
sure.
you really got to do your homework, and you got to practice, and you got to, like, I've gotten on mannequins, permed a mannequin, and then cut it. So I can learn how to cut, and I'll do some perms on a wavier perm. I'll do a really tight curl perm. So then I have I'm learning how to best work with this hair type. So when someone sits in my chair, I'm not going in blind,
Right.
They deserve me to know just as much about their hair as somebody with long, straight hair.
For sure. Aluma Hairstyle says, thank you so much for your answer.
Good. Yay.
We have one more question before Ava comes back. So how would you keep curly hair from becoming frizzy? Do you have a trick?
Well, it's probably we're back to fresh up. We're back to Milky Waves. It's got that 72-hour complex in it that keeps that frizz out, and it really works. And another great thing is, and I know like people are gonna go like, really, but hair bonnets, like silk bonnet, and yes, silk pillowcases work, but there's nothing like a silk bonnet. It might not look the sexiest, but it works. It works. And if you put some, a good leave-in treatment in before bed and put a bonnet on, you're going to wake up with half the amount of frizz if you're going to have any at all.
What about the amount of times people touch their curls through the day?
Yeah. So now my daughter is like, she will not, once her hair is in place, it is in place and no one is touching it. So if somebody kind of reaches forward, like, oh my God, she's like, you're not touching my hair. Because if you touch it, the frizzier it gets. So when you're styling, when I'm diffusing a client's hair in the salon, I have my pick in one hand and my diffuser in the other, and I am barely putting my hands in that hair at all until the very end. Then I'll finish it off with whatever is gonna work best for them, So you want something that's got like a nice little bit of shine to it, or like I really love glam mist too with curly hair when it's completely finished, just to put some nice shine on it.
Amazing.
I think I hear my daughter. I don't know if she's coming back yet. I think I hear her. She's finishing up in there. So we'll see the
How
and then I'm going to show you guys how we cut her fringe as she gets in here. Ava!
The big reveal of how nice it looks once it's finished.
Oh, here we go. Okay.
Exciting. Let's see. Oh, wow. Look at those curls.
Okay, so now you can see. So she's lost that shelf. If I turn her, tuck your feet in. If I turn you, so you see how she's more blended now? I don't know if you guys can see that. Hang on.
Twist a little bit more to the front. Much better. Awesome.
Right? So
that
can you see that? She's got all this movement in there, and it doesn't look so shelfy. Okay, so now we're going to cut her fringe. So this is the only time that I really like to cut hair dry, and I'm going to try. If you need me to move, Mary Lynn, just let me know.
I will.
But so I just kind of plump the hair up and put it where I'm going to put it.
Okay.
And then I'll go in and freehand.
We're getting comments saying beautiful, and Nick put some hearts.
Of course, Nick better put some hearts.
So Lisa, when you're doing the fringe, there would be no tension whatsoever.
No tension. I'm just leaving it exactly how it falls. And then I'm just going in. And I just cut the curls. I'm not holding it. I'm not touching it. And then I'll just spruce it up a little bit.
Zena says she wants this hair.
Everybody wants her hair.
It's so beautiful.
Okay, so when I was explaining before about the how the only time that I would take some hair out is this is when I'll take my scissors, I'll pick up a piece. So look at how small of a piece I'm picking up. Like it's a strand.
Yeah.
I find where it starts to coil, and then I pull around and I cut it.
Okay, so you are actually cutting a full piece. You're not getting in there.
No, I'm taking small pieces of where I would like that to be a little bit elevated. I follow the curl pattern and I bring it in.
Amazing.
So in here, right, I want to expose her face a little bit. So I'm going to come in on this kind of angle.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just move with the curl, slide out. Again, I'm going to move with the curl. Sorry, Ava. Slide out.
Zena's asking if this layers it. So it does give it that layer, right? Gives it
yes,
that texture.
yes, because that's what I'm doing, but I'm just going to do it a little bit instead of just going in and going ham on my poor daughter's hair. So
no,
I just take the pieces I want.
Right. Nobody wants a frizzy fringe.
No, so that's why I don't touch it too much. I just take the pieces I want, and then now it's exposed.
Beautiful.
So once again, I might pick up a piece, you know, and then just a little bit on her ends here and there. And all that does will stop it from getting too shelfy in here. Can you see that little bit just starts to round it out a little bit?
Yeah. Just give it a little bit more curvature.
Yeah, so this is the only time that I like to really go in there. This is the most texturizing I will do. Right? It's just, and you can see the difference if I move out of the way there.
Yeah.
A little bit, just that little bit in there compared to that side.
It has more of that curvature.
It's just got that little bit more of a shape, but I didn't necessarily cut that whole shape into her head.
Exactly. Just go with the movement of the hair.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So
beautiful.
There's your finished product.
Looks
and I'm not going to put anything in. She's already had the curl shaper put in. And I put in a ton of the Milky Ways that I was cutting.
Beautiful.
So that's her finished look.
Amazing. Now, Ava, are you happy with your beautiful haircut?
She's been waiting long enough.
Awesome, ladies. Well, if there's any more questions, this is your last chance to ask Lisa. If not, I want to say thank you very much for joining us today, and thanks
for having me.
For being a great model.
I was so nervous before I did this. Now I'm like, me and Ava were like laughing. I'm like, if I start laughing during this, like, what nervous laughs the whole time. But it was actually really good. I actually really enjoyed this today.
Awesome. Well,
you're welcome, Nick. You're welcome, Nick.
You get big hearts from everyone. Thank you, Lisa. And
Thank you,
very
bye.
much for joining us. Have a great day, guys.
You too. I'll talk to you
Take care.
later.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.